the section. Hope everybody enjoyed the rust and tea and warmed yourself up a little bit. We're starting to get a bit nippy in Littleton. So this session that we're going into now before lunchtime, we're going to be looking at national resource management and what's happening with working for water, a bit of an update from Kay, and thereafter we're going to be looking at herbicides for invasive species. So Kay needs no introduction, and Kay is going to give us a nice update on what is happening across the area at the moment. Kay, all yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Needless to say, I don't live in the area, so I'll be very grateful for anybody who can help what's going on here. Working for Water, we're not able to be here today, and so what I did is I just put together, I still think it's extraordinarily interesting to find out what's happening in your area in invasive species. So I did put some things together. I have a very sort of limited ideas of what we're going to say today. The first thing is to inform you of what's going on with the appointments of service providers and what's happened. It's public knowledge, it's in the news, how things are going there. Herbicide assistance, future working for water projects, and we're going to sort of certainly be asking you what is going on. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the morning, Working for Water is in the branch of environmental programs. It's in the Directorate of the National Resource Management Programs. We refer to it as NRM. And they are the guys on the ground. They are the guys that roll out poverty relief program that was developed in 1995. And in actual fact, has had all these large numbers of people working for them over the period. In terms of the NRM, the question that we have from stakeholders is how can I get money from the government to work with invasives and be an NRM contractor? And that really is where we come in, because we are we are between the government and the public. And there are the issues are here that, from my perspective, I'm able to talk because I'm outside of NRM. But the one thing that's terribly important is you cannot do this alone. You cannot apply to government for funds as a farm, as an individual, as a company. You've got to get yourself into organizations. You've got to be the Landowners Association of the North Bloemfontein area. You've got to be the Dealsville farmers. You've got to be the Clarence Conservancy for getting rid of poplar. So you've got to get yourself into very big groups, and then once you have, you've got to know how the system works. And the system is very complicated, and it's been evolved over a number of years. So the issue is largely you've got to understand what they want done. What they want done is they want invasive alien plants to be removed. And that is the poverty relief part of it. They want you to employ as many people as you can to get rid of plants, but they have priorities. And they have priorities, and the priorities are such that if you have a huge big farm and you have a whole bunch of poplar that's sorting out your farm, it may not be the priority of the government. The priorities will be near rivers, riverine areas, wetlands are priorities, and that's where they're putting the money. So you've got to fit in the successful applicants that get money from NRM, National Resource Management Programs, are people who are removing invasives from critically environmentally important areas. Now, the other thing is that the service provider appointments happen every 3 years, and you've got to know when these are happening. And I can tell you they don't put a big banner up on the Sunday Times. Sometimes you've got to really watch the websites. You've got to have insiders in Working for Water who know when it's going to be, these tenders are going to be gazetted. They're usually gazetted every 3 years. And if you miss that tender application to put in all your materials to say, I would like money, sorry for you, you wait another 3 years. And even then there could be issues like COVID, and there could be issues like the country's having a terrible time, and then they actually don't get all the materials out. We were in Stellenbosch, and we were facing a backlash from all the residents who were saying, we used to have NRM money, Working for Water money, to clear our municipal nature reserves. Now, let me put it to you this way. The last tender was the request for proposals was issued on the 6th of December, and you had to put it in on the 14th of January or something like that, middle of January. It was actually put back to the end of January eventually. But the point is, you've got to have a municipality that will actually has got all their control plans completely under control. You cannot put a proposal in until you've done a control plan, because you've got to know what invasives you've got in a particular area and how you're going to get rid of them. So control plans are the beginning, middle and end. You work on control plans until the next tender rolls come out. Once you've got your control plans, then you can actually say, okay, I'm going to go for the tender. Then the tender comes out on the 6th of December, and these are serious documentations required. Serious, large numbers of paper, large things filled in. They take 4 or 5 weeks to put out, and if you're going on holiday, guess what? You're not going to be part of the tender. You won't make it by the 14th of January. So you cancel your holiday, and you actually get it in. And that's actually what happens. So that's what happened last time, and certainly that's what happened this year as well. Now, the other issue that has happened is that there's been a change of policy along the way. And I do have to smile at the change of policy. The policy in the past was it's unreasonable to accept that a group of 20 very poor people from very rural areas can get themselves together and remove invasive species if they don't have a bucky, if they don't have tools, if they don't have equipment. Therefore, from 1998 through to about 2-3 years ago, they had something called the drawdown system. You got a contract to remove all the invasives, you won the contract, the contractor would have a group of because it's all organized like an army, 12 little people in that group, 12 there, 12 there, and one contractor may run 3 or 4 teams. And he got his teams, and he's going to remove that poplar in that area over there. And he would get a drawdown. He'd get the buckies, he'd get the equipment, and it would be wonderful. That was abused by the people, I think. I think that's all I can think on the outside. That was the story. And as a result, there's a new regime that came in about 3 years ago, and that is you have to do the work, and only when you've done the work, it's been tested, it's been ticked, it's been marked, you've actually done the work. My goodness gracious me, once you've done the work, then you get the money. So there's a whole new system. Now you have to do the work before you get the money. And it's such a pity, because you used to get the money before you did the work, and that was great. But that's not working anymore, and really the people have themselves to blame on that one. It just, the system was abused. So now we're in a new era, and as a result, small people in rural areas with low income have got cash flow problems. And as a result, the number of people who are applying to Working for Water has dropped substantially, because you've actually got to be quite with it to be able to get these things in. Now, in the Western Cape, the herbicide assistance program, which basically was if you've got a whole bunch of plants that you want removed, you went to Working for Water and they gave you herbicide. You had to employ the labor, you had to do all the herbicide stuff yourself, but you actually got the actual chemical from the government. Now, in the Western Cape, that was actually suspended. Is there anyone in the Free State who can attest to whether that program is you're getting herbicide for free in the Free State, or is it also be suspended here? I know in not all the provinces it was suspended. No one's been receiving free herbicide. Well, clearly that's an issue that's going on. They've also had a lot of, data collection challenges, but Working for Water staff are always available if needed. Now, if you want to look at the Working for Water situation, this is basically the big numbers. Now, I don't expect you to read that numbers, but basically 15 billion has been spent on the Working for Water programs since the start. And you can see that Christo Marais and Guy Preston got their first money from the government, 27 million rand they were given back in 1995 as a poverty relief program to employ rural people to remove invasive species. And since then we've got working on fire, working for wetlands, working everywhere. It is a remarkable, remarkable operation. If you have a look at it in terms of the numbers, this is the numbers here, and you can see that our highest area was 2012-2013, which was pretty much taking the tax that was created in the boom. And then obviously it's gone down a bit, and then it's climbed up again. And then of course we hit COVID. And what has happened since COVID is not all the contracts have been put out. As a matter of fact, the 2020 contracts have not actually, a lot of them have not been actually sent out. So for a year, a effectively 1.2 billion has not been going out to contractors. And when we were in Stellenbosch, the first three rows of the entire room was contractors hoping to hear that we had good news for them, that they were going to get a contract or they were going to hear. So for 18 months, the contracts have not been awarded. Now we are hearing through the grapevine that the first contracts are being told they have been approved. So the system is working. As an outsider, I would guess COVID probably nailed the government. Can you imagine? You're the Minister of Environmental Affairs, you're sitting in a cabinet meeting with 20 other ministers, and they say, oh my gosh, COVID's coming to South Africa, and they say, okay, we need 3 billion for the hospitals immediately, otherwise the whole country's going to die. Are you going to put your money into hospitals, or are you going to put your money into invasive species? And I would imagine that they put a lot of money into the COVID system. So I think as a country, we had a bit of a problem there. So what's happening in the country? Well, we have this fantastic website which is put together. It's the Working for Water website. It's www.fworg.org.za. It will come up a bit later. And this website actually, over the years, has been developed by Working for Water staff as a tool for people and projects that are working as part of the operation. And it really is marvellous. And I'm one of the biggest fans of Andrew Wannenberg in the whole wide world. He's not a particularly big public man. He doesn't like to be seen. He doesn't like to be heard. But my gosh, he is one of Working for Water's national treasures. And he puts these websites together. So if you're having a look at the Free State website, you can certainly see here, it's not terribly good, but Bloemfontein is the big red stand there. We've got a suture on the side here. Now, a huge number of Drakensberg projects in this particular area, and you can see there's absolutely nothing in Bloemfontein, which means that Bloemfontein as a centre, as a city, has never put Working for Water projects in, and this is 2020-2021. So 2020-2021, you've never had asked for money to employ people to clear your whatever around here. Am I right, guys, or wrong? Okay, it is an area of money that you can apply for if you can get the control plans done, and obviously as a centre, this particular area would have far fewer invasives because of your fantastically cold winters. But nevertheless, it is an area where you can see there's quite a dearth of people that there's no projects in the area, so there's no competition here. So let's have a bit of a closer look at what, I've gone too far. As you can see here, what are the projects in the Free State? We've got Koffiefontein, apologies for the spelling, Petrus Control, so the Free State Biocontrol operation is based in Petrusburg. We've got Deelsville, Boshoff, Bulkfontein, Marquard, Ladybrand, and just to the right here, I'm going to show you a bit more about what's happening in the Clarence area. I've worked quite a lot with social biodiversity projects, which is the Sand Parks sort of operation of Working for Water, and they certainly are doing some really good work. Sand Parks gets a substantial amount of money from Working for Water every year. This is what I'm saying in terms of the Cape Town. This is the metropolitan area of Cape Town. Now, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, potentially 6 projects. And this is what I was saying about when we were in Stellenbosch. Stellenbosch had a whole bunch of Working for Water money. They had people working in their municipal nature reserves. They'd done all the control plans, they'd put in their money to Working for Water, and they'd got a whole bunch of money from Working for Water. Then they didn't make the next 2020 over December when they had to put in all those contracts in 2021. December 2020, January 2021. And we had to explain to the residents of Stellenbosch that actually there would be no Working for Water in their nature reserves or clearing up their areas in their urban areas because actually the municipality hadn't put forward any applications. And so a lot of it depends on partnerships in towns as to where the money comes from, working together, conservancies working together, and it has to happen. If we have a look here, you can see KwaZulu-Natal has really got it under control. This sort of top below the Drakensberg here, right the way through. This is Pietermaritzburg here. We've got Durban here, and right the way through this sort of below the mountains area. A lot of Working for Water work. On this website, you can also see who's got the contracts. This is government money. They have to actually say who's getting the contracts and what the money is being spent for. So, for instance, this is Deelsville, and you can see that's a project in 2020-2021. 1.2 million, it has all the details of who's running the contract, what they're doing, where they're working, and what they said to government they would do, and now what they're doing. This is another, I've gone too fast. This is another one, this is Lady Brand, and you can see that it's 25 workers. This is the Lady Brand area. I'm just having a look. This is the Lesotho border. Sorry, at the back you're going to be being a bit suspicious. There's Bloemfontein. So this is Lady Brand, and here are all the details. If you press on that little working for water item, the actual contract of who's got the contract in Lady Brand, where it is, what's happening in that area is all there. Now, arguably, this contract is finished, but this is a record of the fact that there was a contract there and that they got money from the government. If you have a look at this particular area, what I wanted to show you is Sandparks has a wet mill. So for that area, this is reporting 2020-2021, there's a Sandparks wet mill here, and in this particular Vicksburg area, huge amount of poplar removal. Certainly I know that there's a lot of poplar removal in that area, and also Caledon up here, Fariesburg, and all the way up to Golden Gate. One of the biggest things of working for water was to make sure that our protected areas were clear of invasive species, and Sandparks has received a huge amount of money to make sure that that is the case in our areas. So what's coming out of those mills? Well, certainly I know that this particular area supplied all the wood chips, that the sausages, the wood chip sausages that went to Knysna after the big fires. And the Knysna municipality were enormously grateful to the people who sent those wood chips, and they all were created in this area, in that fixed. All the sausages came from a contract where they put a proposal in and had been accepted by government, and they showed how it was being done. This particular is the poplar wood, and this is the beginning of the Nando's and companies getting involved in invasive species. I get about an email a week saying to me, do I know where there's any wattle around the Benoni area? Do I know if there's any wattle around the Kimberley area? And it's basically individual entrepreneurs that are not particularly sort of environmentally known in the industry, but they're just entrepreneurs who have realized there is a huge value in wood, in biomass. And Nando's, being on the forefront of wanting to be companies that would be part of the climate change, part of the circular industry, circular society, circular economy. They actually went into a partnership with Homewoods. Now, Homewoods are based in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands, but a lot of their poplar woods comes from this particular area and these particular projects. And this is an ecosystem of people who are working. Now, we're working a great deal with the Vatican at the moment, and the Vatican have pulled all the CEOs from South Africa in the mining industry. They've pulled them to the Vatican, they've had meetings with them in the Vatican, and the Vatican, the chief Vatican man who's interested in this is a cardinal from Ghana, and he is saying to the CEOs of the coal companies of South Africa has to stop using coal as part of their agreement because we're signatories to the Paris Agreement. Now, what happens when all the coal is no longer used? There are 82,000 people who are involved in the coal mining industry at the moment. Can invasive biomass be a place that those 82,000 miners can actually transition to? And could we have them making charcoal? Could we have them making furniture? Can they come into the biomass area? We can't just, the Pope and the Vatican are saying we can't just have 82,000 people unemployed on the 1st of January 2035. We've got a plan ahead, and this is one of the plans that we're certainly looking at. And Nando's is way ahead of the rest of the people. They are saying, we are very happy to buy invasive furniture. So there are people who are ahead of the game, and the Elanga range is something that they'll be working with these furniture manufacturers to run out to all the Nando's branches. Now, obviously, COVID has put a huge brake on this. They would have probably, had there been no COVID, they would have had them all out to all the branches. At the moment, this is in Benoni. The Benoni branch is the trial branch, and they're calling it not poplar because they reckon that's going to make people feel sad because we've made such a smear campaign on poplar. They call it Cottonwood. So you have cottonwood furniture, and cottonwood furniture comes from invasive poplar. So listen, we're not going to slam them. Anything that is good for the industry is good for us. I don't mind using the word cottonwood anymore either. So this is the Nando's Benoni with the cottonwood, and there are a complete range, and this particular company in Littleton has actually made an Amanzi range, and they're offering locally sourced invasive species, and they offer all this furniture, all beautifully done, in the furniture that comes from the poplar from the Free State. And this is just, there they are in their wood making factory in the KwaZulu-Natal area using Free State poplar, and it's made by hand, made by people, and it's mostly poplar wood. And that's really what the end of my, no, it's not the end of my talk. Oh, there's another thing, the proposals. The bids closed in January 2021. Contracts are being allocated. I've already heard today a couple of people saying they've had phone calls, so things are moving. And obviously we've had a couple of the Working for Water contracts extended to April 2023 when they were absolutely critical. People inside Working for Water, like we've got Debbie Muir here today, we've got Stian, and we've got people who live in the building and who certainly know what's going on. They would tell you that this is starting to move. And I think that's it. Thank you. There are questions. Okay, any questions? There we go. Morning.
Okay, there we go. Wait, there we go. Yes, you are. Thank you so much.
No, you just turned up the volume.
Go for it. Tom.
Okay, you're here. Okay. Thank you so much for the talk, and I'm interested in the first part of it. And, you show so much videos of videos that have been infested in biological invasions control, and it will be great if you tie in the return on investment. We see the money has been used, and what have we benefited? We know the area invasive species have got negative impacts on the environment, they change the system, and they do all these things. But what have we achieved after such a long investment?
What have we achieved?
What have we achieved? I want you to appraise the sense of
I can tell you that the scientists are trying to answer that all the time. There's a guy called Brian van Vulcan, and he hangs out at Stellenbosch University. And he has seriously done, there are at least 10 papers. 10 papers looking at what Working for Water has done. Some of them are highly critical, some of them are highly complementary. Working for Water started out as invasive plants taking water from the industry. I'm not entirely sure I can get into a big argument as to the scientists have big numbers and big whatevers as to what should be done and what shouldn't be done. But there are two takeaways for a public gathering. The first is they don't have nearly enough money. They need tons more money to achieve removing invasives. Second of all, the invasives are winning. The invasives are just getting more and more and more, and with climate change, the sort of areas that are getting drier are getting drier, and areas that are getting wetter, and it's getting a huge problem. So, yes, this is not a perfect solution. I hear you, but would you like to say something?
The invasives are increasing at 5% per year, and we're reducing them at 1% per year.
There we go. Nothing like experts, eh? I can keep the show on until the experts talk.
Yeah, so my name is Casey. I just wanted to check if programs like Working for Water, I remember at some point in Eastern Cape where they were removing the acacia and the wildlife. There was some benefit. We have seen the water flow increasing the water in the river. But however, there was an opportunity at that time to do what is this thing? Charcoal, to make charcoal out of the waters that were removed. So I'm wondering, in line with the question of return on investment, what value are we adding to the invasive? Is there an opportunity to add value to those invasives such that it's not just removal, as to say we are sort of converting them into some resource of a sort?
Absolutely. I work with Avocado Vision, and Avocado Vision are people who are connected with the Vatican. Avocado Vision are the people who are creating at this moment a franchise whereby people in rural areas will be able to make their own kilns, have particular areas, and then the charcoal will be moved to a central area and will be distributed. People like the province, the state of Texas, put out a tender each year for X amount of charcoal. And places like Namibia, where literally they take the invasive species and they're doing a really good job at putting it all into charcoal, they export to Texas. But we in South Africa don't produce enough charcoal to get onto that world market where we can actually export to Texas. And there are people who are working on that program, and that's why the people in the Vatican think that we may be able to, invasive biomass may be the answer to all these poor workers coming out of the coal thing. Debbie, would you like to add? You're on.
Yes. The problem with the charcoal making is the biggest issue normally is with transport and the cost of the transport. To give you an indication, especially with acacias, let's work, my math sucks, so we're going to go with 5s. 5 tons wet mass of acacias will only make 1 ton of charcoal. So you normally work on a 5-to-1 ratio, but the biggest cost will be how do you get that 1 ton of charcoal to the market. So in provinces like the Northern Cape, where transport is a real issue, with regard to the costs of the transport from getting it where your kiln is in field to to where you want to sell it, that's where it becomes unprofitable. So you always have to look at the transport costs. That's always what's going to basically knock the market or knock the company or the business, is the transport costs. So value-added industries is a very good idea until you have to transport what you've made to market.
There we have it. But we know that biomass management is a huge problem worldwide. What to do with your invasives once you've cleared them. It's an ongoing problem, and we're looking for solutions all the time, workable solutions.
But all the people who are here, who work in the systems, who look at the proposals, who decide the proposals, are in this room today. So, you know, this is where you make the contacts, this is where you talk to them, the Debbies, the Steans, the Green Scorpions. These are people who know exactly what's going on. So talk to them, and that's the value of you being here today.
Great, thank you very much, Kate. Thanks for that update with regards to working for water and what's happening across the country.